Welcome to episode 13 of the Practice Squad, a show where we talk about football and make the replacement refs look like pros. I'm your host and fourth string quarterback, Jeremy, joined each and every week by my co-host and backup long snapper, Joseph. How's it going, man?
They didn't relax enough.
The Packers?
Yeah, I just didn't relax.
Yeah, you can't really be relaxed when you're firing someone, can you?
And losing to the Cardinals at home.
So we're going to get right into the whole Mike McCarthy thing in a few minutes, but we're live right here on YouTube each and every week at 8:30 p.m. Pacific, right after Monday Night Football. If you're tired of the punditry or just want a fresh voice, come listen to a couple random dudes talk about football and have a good time. This week we've got a recap of the game of the week, lots of awesome discussions, continuing discussion about the poopy 49ers, and as always, our predictions. So there's a lot to cover, so let's go ahead and dive right into our game of the week, Vikings at Patriots. So more so than anything else, I feel like this game was, I'm going to use the word vectors. I saw these two teams kind of going in different directions, and that worries me a little bit. I feel like the Patriots are starting to get kind of hot, and I feel like the Vikings are starting to cool down. Do you feel the same way?
For the Vikings, definitely. For the Patriots, it may be relatively heating up. I think if they play in Kansas City, they're going to get crushed. Like, what I saw was a lot of the defense was so bad for the Vikings, and they were very passive. Allowing how many times did Brady throw like 3 to 5 yards, and the guys ran for another 10 to 15? I mean, that just classic Tom Brady, and that happened over and over again. So
Yeah.
I'm okay to say the Patriots are playing well, but I feel like their 9-3 is a little skewed, and I think they're. Well, I don't think they're going to make the Super Bowl, so I think they're going to lose in the playoffs early.
Well,
but the Vikings are definitely cooling
But
down.
here's the thing about that, though. So Josh Gordon feels like he's finally kind of plugged in and starting to play well. He had a good game. And then on the flip side, we've got the big news from the Chiefs about releasing Kareem Hunt. So I feel like I don't want anybody to walk away from this thinking that I think now that the Chiefs are worse than the Patriots, but in 1 week, I feel like the gap closed significantly. I still think on the Chiefs field, the Patriots would lose, but it's unclear, especially how they played against the Raiders this week. It's unclear that Chiefs are really going to close out their schedule strong. So I guess we can talk about that on the general segment, but you had something to say about the Patriots?
Yeah, I just well, I mean, I could also see the Chargers going up to Foxborough and beating them, but so forget about the Patriots for a second. I mostly agree. I definitely agree with your Vikings assessments. It's kind of crazy to think that the Eagles and the Vikings were the two number one seeds or the top two seeds in the NFC last year, and now this year, at best, one of them will make the playoffs. Like the Vikings may be the 6th seed.
Yeah,
So
probably neither. If I had to guess right now, I would say neither are making it.
Well, so I thought that as well, but I looked at the schedules and the records. That tie really helps them. They're basically competing with the Panthers and the Redskins. And so because of that tie, and the other teams are 6-6, and the Panthers still have 2 games against the Saints, I think the Vikings still have the edge. They have a slight edge. So I think they'll get in at 8-7-1 over teams that'll be 8-8. But regardless, they are cooling down. That defense is not at all what it was last year. Cousins, you look at his stats, he's not playing bad. He's passive, and I don't know.
Yeah,
so,
he doesn't seem to be commanding games like he was in the first half of the season.
Exactly.
His,
and I guess
his stats are not down a ton, but yeah, he's not. I think the biggest issue is something happened to the O-line. I haven't really been tracking injuries or whatever there, but their O-line is a total disaster. And
he is sacked a lot.
Yeah, he gets sacked a lot. There's tons of pressure. I mean, the Patriots D-line isn't stellar. And I feel like that I've said this now the last couple of times we've talked about the Vikings, that their O-line is causing significant issues.
Well, yeah, they're inconsistent. Like the Vikings can make big plays, but then they can't score on them. So then I guess I'll go into my rant to kind of wrap this up or really speak to the problem with the Vikings. So as a whole, in the fourth quarter, they gave up. I take an unpopular opinion that if you're getting blown out and it's clear, I mean, it's basically impossible that you can win. I'm okay with kind of slacking off at the end for the sake of being practical and not injuring yourself. What I'm not okay with is when you have any kind of shot to be in the game and you give up. And that's what the Vikings did. There were I think there were 6.5 minutes left. And, their attempt to get a first down was embarrassing. They had a 4th and 11. I think they ran the ball on third down, and then they had 4th and 11, and he threw it for 3 yards.
Oh yeah, that was pathetic.
Yeah, that is unacceptable. I mean, there's still 6.5 minutes left in the game.
Those plays drive me so crazy on both sides of the ball. When there's a 3rd and long, or especially a 4th and long, and they don't put the receiver in a place to actually get deep yardage. It's just we're going to dunk it for the easy 2 yards and then just hope that they get 8 or 9 yards after the catch.
Well, yeah, it's third down. Third down is bad, but at least there's maybe we'll go for 4th down. But how is it 4th and 11 and you only throw it 3 yards? You're basically just saying, you know what? We're just going to turn the ball over. We're just going to give the Patriots the ball. And they did. The Patriots still turned the ball. The Patriots turned the ball over. The Vikings still have a chance. There was 5-ish minutes left. And then Kirk Cousins throws a pick. And you know what, though? It's not Cousins' fault. I rewatched it. You listen to Buck and Aikman kind of blame Cousins, but they're wrong. They're absolutely wrong. Robinson, the receiver, should be cut or suspended immediately if I was the Vikings coach.
Come on. He had some good catches.
Okay. But this one play
and he also used to be a Niner for a little while, so...
Oh, that's why I was running where you were being ridiculous now. So you could have stuck in any starting middle school wide receiver, and all they had to do was jump, and they would have caught this ball. He did nothing. He didn't stick up his arms. He didn't jump. So Cousins barely underthrew him. It was actually a pretty good throw considering, but maybe a tad underthrown. Robinson didn't jump. And he didn't even put his arms out. And he allowed the defenders to put their arms out and block the ball. How do you not do that? The ball's coming towards you. You're a wide receiver. How do you not jump up to get the ball? I don't get it, man. And I'm actually losing my patience here. I don't
know the answer to your question, but I do know the answer to another question that neither of us asked, which is, what new segment should we do for this show next season? And that is players Joseph would cut. And we'll go through every single game each week and the dozens and dozens of players that Joseph would just cut based off of their performance on that game. And we'd be left with, practice squad only teams. Every week teams would have to be bringing in undrafted guys, and eventually we'd end up with a league that's slightly better than high school football.
You know what? No, you know what? We'd end up with cream of the crop, and maybe we teach these guys a lesson to actually know how to play and use technique. You know what? The average athlete the average player may be more athletic on average. I don't think the cap is that much higher, but the average may be better than 10, 20 years ago, but the fundamentals are better then. And same goes true with basketball and probably even baseball, whatever. But definitely with basketball. And it's frustrating. It's so frustrating. I mean, there was no effort on that. Anyways, I'm going to move on.
Well, I just want to make one quick comment, which is, if the Vikings cannot fix their O-line in some way, and Kirk Cousins does not retake command of the field, they're going nowhere. They have the receiving core. They have really strong receivers. They've got a good running back. And I think they have a defense that can make enough plays to keep them in games. They're obviously not playing at the level they've been recently. I really zero in on the O-line. And then Cousins peripherally as someone that needs to step it up. So we'll see what happens, but I don't, I don't trust this. I think they're, the end of the season, this last quarter of the season is when, teams show what they're worth in terms of how hard they want to make the playoffs and what they have left in the gas tank. And the Vikings aren't showing that they have much. So they may squeak in by nature of the fact that the Panthers are also kind of floundering right now. But, I mean, Seahawks are roaring into one of those wildcard spots, and now it's left for the Vikings to fight for this second one.
Speaking of teams that don't have much to fight for, tell me about the Dolphins.
Okay, so this week was Bills at Dolphins, and I'm going to quote someone that I know well as saying that this game was like a high school game on roids.
Who said that?
I think there's a co-host for a podcast that I'm on that said that. But I completely agree. This game was actually fun to watch, mostly because it was just messy. But you guys always manage to. Miami has really high highs and really low lows. I feel like you guys make some great. Every game you come out and there's certain players that just make these great plays, and then on the flip side, you have, turnovers and penalties and sloppy offense and just not, lots of things going wrong. Overall, I want my assessment of this game to really not be about the game. It was a game you needed to win. But my one comment this week is going to be that going forward, I think you guys have pieces to make a good team. I really like Xavier Howard. I really like Devontae Parker. I really like what Frank Gore's doing. I think the three needs you guys need to address: quarterback, interior defensive line, and O-line. Your O-line could not open up lanes for the running game, could not protect the passer. You guys had 190 total yards of offense yesterday. And then on the flip side, the D-line could not get to Josh Allen, who granted was very elusive, but he just shredded you guys on the ground. I think he had the team had 198 rushing yards against. I think he had like 140 of those. So, if you guys address those needs, you guys could go somewhere. But man, I'll hand it over to you by saying I thought Josh Allen actually was decent. He was really elusive. He had some accuracy issues, especially those deep balls. But he has decent pocket presence.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that Allen surprised me with his athleticism. He had a lot of good running moves and like faked out some players, and so he has a good arm. I agree with the accuracy issues downfield, but the kind of 10 to 20 yards, spirals, accurate. I think he goes for it too much because he had a few ducks he threw when they were deep. Other than that, I was surprised by his athleticism. I think he was 18 for 33. We had no answer for him. I agree with your assessment on the three things we need, and in that order too. I'm sorry, I'd flip the lineman order. I would go quarterback 1, offensive line, and the defensive line. But
I'd agree. Yeah, I agree. That was in no particular order when I
came. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that order.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned probably like in week 3 or 4 about us was having no identity and like lack of leadership, and having a quarterback come in and be solid for us, solidify the team and be that leader and identity, then I think we're easily a 9-10 win team, and we have that moving forward. So, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I did the high school on roids. It was very exciting. Honestly, one of the most exciting games I've actually watched this year, which is interesting. But because it was so sloppy, and watching Josh Allen was fun, and then the big interceptions we had, and then because that was one of the few games this year where I didn't already know the score. Most of the time, I already know the score, and I just watch it to watch it. But I think I only knew that Dolphins were up 7-0 in the first quarter. So when I watched this game, I was like, oh man, I don't know who's going to win. And it was, so that's what added to the excitement. Yeah, outside of the assessment, I think that's all I need to say about that. So I'll move on to the Niners. Man, I'll say this. Hey, Seattle, you need two more wide receivers to play for you guys and take a break of Baldwin and Lockett. You know, Jeremy and I can play in a few weeks when you're in San Francisco because it looks like the Niners love to leave wide receivers wide open when they play each other. I'm sure Jeremy and I can rack up 10 to 15 receptions combined for 100 yards, given how poorly your corners played and how much room you gave them. My goodness, that was bad.
That's our game plan. Our game plan is to leave wide receivers so wide open, but just make them think they need to do sprints down the field to get into the end zone, so that by the third, early fourth quarter, all the receivers are so tired from all their running that's when we take over. That's our game plan.
Yeah, tired of running or tired of winning by 3 touchdowns. Yeah, so that's my first, comment is I just watched it and I was like, wow. I mean, how is Doug Baldwin that open? Carson is looking stronger each week, dude. He's really putting himself up as a top 5 running back.
Yeah, I'm scared.
And yeah, I know he is. And he's bigger than I thought too. Like when I first watched him play, I don't know what it was, but he looks bigger now, and he's able to. He kind of reminds me of you remember playing the guys on the Giants years ago? What was his name? Brandon Jacobs. You remember him?
Oh yeah, huh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was much bigger, but like he wasn't super fast or athletic, but he was just a bruiser, and he always got like that extra couple yards.
Yeah, he was on their Super Bowl team. In, 2011.
Yeah, so that's who Carson kind of reminds me of a little bit. And then of course Russell Wilson to Lockett and Russell Wilson to Baldwin. That's looking good. And their defense was able to make some interesting plays, some big plays. They're starting to bring that fire back into the defense. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have.
So I'm sure you're not looking forward to 2 weeks from now. And then lastly, when they were down, I think 13-0, and number 13, I forgot his name, and
Richie
he dropped
James.
Richie James.
Yep.
Richie James dropping that punt return, leading to a Seattle recovery and an eventual touchdown. Oh man, I'll leave it off there. Give it to us.
So everybody needs to take a step back, and I'm going to provide some perspective. The perspective is that as of today, we have lost. So Matt Breida isn't going to play next week. Dakota Watson is on IR now with a torn calf. And Jaquiski Tartt, who is really the only half-decent starting safety left, is now also going to be out because every time someone pushes him with a finger, he goes down injured for 2 games. He has a lot of talent, but he's made out of glass, and I don't know how long his career is going to be, but we lost essentially 3 more starters this week. So we are now officially a practice squad team. We are a practice squad football team playing against first-string teams at this point. Every position, minus a couple of guys that have managed to stay healthy, have second or third, sometimes fourth-string players playing at those positions. So that being said, that's our perspective. Nick Mullins went into CenturyLink Field and actually did okay. He was under pressure all day long. He was able to get the ball away better this week, which I thought that was a growth area for him. He had a lot of trouble with that last week, but he did pretty well with that this week. There were a lot of almost sacks. But his numbers are a little inflated. Like he was 30 for 48 for 414 yards, which you would not guess that based on watching that game. But he had 414 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. And he's, I'm only commenting on him because that's all we've got to watch at this point. I don't want to talk about him, but he's all we have. Jeff Wilson. Oh man. Here's another potential undrafted gem. Another undrafted running back gem that Kyle Shanahan picked up. Minus that ridiculously bogus fumble call. Did you see that?
Ooh, no, I don't remember that.
Okay.
When was that?
So there was a ball. So the Niners were in the red zone. It was early in the game. I want to say it was maybe late first quarter or early second quarter.
Must have missed that.
Jeff Wilson was carrying the ball, and there was a pile of guys around him. And the next thing you know, guys were on the ground, and a Seattle guy ran out of the pile with a ball. And based on replays, they called it a fumble on the field. So, of course, the rule is, you have to default to the call unless there's overwhelming evidence to overturn. And the few camera angles I saw just showed him kind of fall to the ground, and then when there was a pile of bodies on the ground, the ball got taken out and turned over. But there wasn't any kind of clear evidence that he let go of the ball before he was down. And so Seattle got the ball, and they ended up luckily not scoring on that drive, but it was a total bogus call. But that all being said, Jeff Wilson played well. He had 15 carries for 61 yards. He was basically the only run game yesterday because Matt Breida had an ankle injury. Alfred Morris isn't playing. So Raheem Mostert's on IR. So it's just guys IR. So 15 for 61, and then he had 8 catches for 73 yards. So he had 134 total yards of offense. He looked great. Man, it just makes me wonder like what this team could do if guys were actually healthy. These offensive gems that Shanahan seems to find. So the other positive thing, real quick, Dante Pettis, he was awesome. He had 2 touchdowns, some great running, great elusive player, multiple missed tackles. So he's coming into his own. And then Buckner had a couple of sacks. I think he's up to like 8 or 8.5 sacks now. So, and then I just loved, granted, there wasn't much you could say against Russell Wilson in this game. But did you see that open field sack of Wilson when they were in the red zone? I think it was like late third quarter or early fourth quarter.
You know what? No, remember we talked earlier? I left, I think, early fourth quarter.
Okay.
So I might have missed it.
So Ronald Blair came off the line unblocked, chased Wilson backwards 16 yards in open field. Nobody else was there, and sacked him. It was a great moment. I would make that like a background video or something, or screensaver. It was amazing. So bad things, the same things as every week. We're -3 in the turnover ratio yesterday. I think we have the worst, or now the second worst, turnover margin in the NFL. More injuries. Special teams was awful. The muffed punt. The return, that one Lockett return for 80 yards, tons of broken coverages. And to be honest, Seattle's offense was really mediocre at best yesterday. I did not feel like they played really well. Like, Carson had some good runs and Wilson had a couple of good passes, but I mean, his stats are pretty muted. And really the reason that they had so many points was because the Niners couldn't stop shooting themselves in the foot. And that's been a theme this year. But those broken coverages, dude, that to me is a coaching issue. I know we've got some young guys out there, like I said, 3rd, 4th string, late draft pick level guys out there. But the fact that there's just so many devastating miscommunications every week just really causes me to scratch my head and wonder what these guys are being taught, how to cover receivers, because there's so often where even when they're in the proximity of a receiver, they're not actually competing with the receiver to knock the ball down, let alone intercept it. And in the red zone, we simply cannot defend the pass. We cannot. It's an automatic touchdown when the team is within 5 or 10 yards. Automatic touchdown. Or the only reason we defend the ball is because we get a PI. So something has to change. I don't know if a coach needs to go, but something has to change. for the secondary. So I agree with you about Carson. He's getting scary, and the defense is getting better. I worry about Seattle. I don't think they're not good enough to topple the best teams in the NFC, but they're definitely good enough to get in a couple rounds. So
Yeah, I think they'll beat the. I think they can go in and beat the Cowboys or the Bears.
yeah, I definitely think they can beat the Cowboys. We'll see if the Bears have home field. That's going to be a tough game, but yeah, no, they could do it. They definitely could do it. So, all right, let's move on to our brief major injuries / news segment.
And just really quick, just want to cheer you up. Buckner 9 sacks on the season.
9 sacks on the season. Okay, he'll be the if he makes 10, he'll be the first double-digit sacker on the Niners since Aldon Smith in 2011 or 2012.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah, no, I know. It's been 6 years since we've had a double-digit sack player.
Oh, all right.
All right. So major news. The first one is Packers fire Mike McCarthy. So they hired Joe Philbin, who great quote from Twitter. I found this. They hired Joe Philbin as an interim head coach, who was, as former head coach of the Dolphins, went 24-28. Someone on Twitter said, anytime you can turn to the guy who went 24-28 as head coach of the Dolphins, you have to do it. So what do you think the firing of McCarthy was justified?
This is going to be a weird answer. It's less of it being justified versus it had to happen. That makes sense.
You mean in terms of like what would happen versus what we think should happen? Like they needed to just because they're tanking, or
yeah, like I'm not sure
they
that
needed to because he's a bad coach.
The former, more so the former.
Okay.
I think that he was showing that his adjustments weren't very good, and maybe the defensive play calling wasn't the best, and he was being a little more conservative. But there's clearly something wrong with their defense, and their running game's been pretty bad, to where they're relying on Aaron Rodgers too much. We've been saying that now for years. But he's also off. Like, Rodgers is off. I still think he's off from the injury he had earlier in the season when was it against the Bears?
Yeah.
And he had that epic comeback. So just all of these things are cascading on each other and have resulted in this just unexpected 4-7-1 start of the season. So I wasn't really like surprised or not surprised regardless of what would have happened, fired or not. But I think it did need to happen, and hopefully this is a big enough change that will spark them for next year, depending on who they get. I guess they got Philbin, but I don't know if he's going to be an interim or not.
Well, he is an interim. They did say that, so they're definitely not going to keep him long term. I just don't know who they're going to get. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting situation. We'll talk about that a little bit in our special discussion segment today. But the next big piece was Chiefs release Kareem Hunt because of a video that came out about domestic violence. So we're not going to go into the whole domestic violence discussion. It's I don't want to get involved in that tonight, but that's a huge blow for the Chiefs. He was the second kind of centerpiece of their offense. How much do you think that's going to affect them at the end of the day? Do you think that's enough to keep them out of the Super Bowl?
I don't think it's enough to keep them from going to the Super Bowl, but it might be enough to lose against the Saints or the Rams. I think just the edge. Like, I think with Hunt, they're really well balanced against those two NFC teams, right? We're talking 3 of the top, probably 5 quarterbacks playing right now. Good running backs, Kamara, Gurley, and Hunt. Good wide receiving core. Defensive playmakers. Very balanced teams, very similar teams actually. So losing Hunt takes away that edge.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah, that's that was shocking. Just another cut right after the Reuben Foster thing too. So do you want to quickly go over the major injuries this week?
Yeah. So AJ Green re-injured his toe. He's probably going to be out for the rest of the year. So the Bengals, they had playoff hopes a few weeks ago.
Yeah, they're done now. I mean, they were kind of done anyway.
Yeah, they were done after last week, and now they're absolutely done. But this is sad. Excuse me, to see this happen. And again, we expressed this. I think we expressed this in like week 1 when we did our preseason, our first show. Just feel bad for AJ Green, and yeah, I hope his career does not turn out to be like Larry Fitzgerald's. Staying on one team and can't really build much around him, and never really does well in the playoffs. Greg Olsen ruptured plantar fascia in his right foot, so he's done for the season. That's big for them. I know that he's been a steady target for Newton for the past several years.
Well, he was out for like a whole year a couple of years ago, wasn't he? He had a season-ending injury either 2 or maybe 3 years ago. So he's struggled with injuries.
Well, it's the same one. So it says here the same foot forced him to miss 3 games.
Okay, that's
this
not
year.
Good.
Yeah, so the same injury on the same foot, or at least the same foot, caused him 3 games missing this year and 9 games last season, and he's done for the season.
Ooh, man. You gotta wonder if he's ever gonna really recover from that.
Yeah, because I think he's been in the league already.
Those re-aggravations.
Yeah, on the foot for a big guy. Yeah. Rob Gronkowski is injured. He has been struggling back and forth with ankle and back injury, so he's questionable. He might return. And then I think the last, where's it at? 2 more. Matt Breida, you brought up him. How long is Breida going to be out? You said he's out next week?
I don't know. He's been dealing with that ankle injury like all season, and so he's been managed to get in the game in time. But yeah, they're going to sit him next week.
Okay, and then just 2 more here. Matthew Stafford has an undisclosed injury during the game, so he needs to get an MRI or an X-ray to confirm. I know their season's pretty much done in terms of playoffs, but he's been a steady piece for them for several years, and they just never been able to get over that 9-7 hump. So this could be major for them. He's really hurt. And then James Conner, the running back for the Steelers, a lower leg contusion, and he's going to be out this next week and possibly longer. And then also their wide receiver Ryan Switzer was in concussion protocol. So the Steelers, they need to make their last push, try to get that 2 seed, because if they don't, I see them losing that first game going. Oh no, they'll play the wild card. I see them losing against the Chiefs or Patriots if they have to go on the road. So they need to get that 2nd seed.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so moving on to our commentators say the darndest things segment. My quotation for this week came from the Niners game. And during this game, in the third quarter, one of the announcers, in reference to Russell Wilson, who had not thrown that many passes at that point in the game, said, and I believe the Seahawks were up by 20 or more points at this point. He says, to sit there and only have 9 attempts in the third quarter, that's just egoless football. So, no, it's the Niners are shooting themselves in the foot so many times that Russell Wilson doesn't have to do anything and gets 30 points handed to him. That's what's actually going on. Excuse me. So egoless football. So here's the thing I hate about that. So he was painting Russell Wilson in this great light, which was, terrible for many reasons. But on the side thing is, there was a play where one of the Niners, Fred Warner, I don't know if he made a tackle or not, doesn't matter, lost his shoe. Okay, his shoe came off. And Russell Wilson grabbed the shoe and tossed it behind the line of scrimmage so that Warner had to go get it. In the process of doing that, Wilson decided to do a hurry up offensive play. Wilson got caught offsides. The ref called it. Shanahan proceeded to give the ref a mouthful, saying a variety of inappropriate words, some of which are illegal to say to a ref, and he got flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct. So, Russell Wilson, thank you. That just is another thing that we don't need to see on the football field. I'm sorry, when you're up by that much, do you really need to do that? It's sort of like stealing third base when you're up 12-1. It's like, come on, really?
Which I've seen happen.
Yeah, it's just stop. Just stop.
So
that kind of, if you throw someone's shoe, that should be an automatic unsportsmanlike conduct flag. Automatically.
Yeah, well, it's even worse.
I don't know why that wasn't called. That was really stupid.
It's even worse than stealing a base, because at least stealing the base, like, that's like a valid operation in baseball. Like,
right,
it's not like
that's true. In that sense, the analogy's not good, because throwing the shoe should be illegal.
Yeah. So, I mean, I hope that the NFL reviews that, because if we're getting penalties, I mean, I saw one play. Oh, which game was it? I can't remember now. Oh, Cowboys game, where this guy was called for taunting, and it's like questionable. But it's like 15 yards, half the distance to the goal, and first of eligible penalties kicked out of the game. It's like, whoa. That is worthy of possibly getting kicked out. But what Wilson did is nothing. And then because of the inaction of the referees, Wilson's bad behavior led to a penalty on the Niners, and Shanahan, getting called out.
So it was a massive benefit to Wilson to do what he did. Right. So at a minimum, he needs to get fined for that. I mean, in game, the ref who didn't call in that situation should get fined or suspended. And then on top of that, Russell Wilson should get fined. And I'm not joking. Like, I
agree.
The ref absolutely has to call stuff like that. You cannot leave that stuff alone.
So next up for next season.
Yeah, relieve me of this anger here. This is not supposed to be an anger segment.
For next season, folks, a second news segments, our beloved reasons for why we dislike Russell Wilson, starting 2019. Every week, whether he's playing or not, we'll find reasons. And we'll go back as far as we have to, even into his college career. The only time Jeremy may care about a college career.
I might actually be willing to talk about college football if that's what it takes.
All right, next one. So this is from Troy Aikman, incredibly overrated Hall of Fame quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. We can get to that later. We'll have our. I mean, I like Troy. I do, and he has some great playoff years, but very overrated. And we'll talk about his performance when we get to our quarterback segment. Anyways, it's Saints at Cowboys. Man, we're just really emotional today. I noticed that.
This is supposed to be funny. Man.
I know.
I mean, let's get to the funny here.
Yeah, ripping on Wilson and Aikman. Man, we're just angry tonight. Okay, so Aikman. So the Cowboys are up 10-0 in the early in the second quarter. Saints have the ball, and a mediocre defensive play happens. Nothing super impressive. Nothing bad. And Aikman says this. This Dallas defense plays from snap to whistle as hard as any team in the game. Yes, Troy. The at the moment they were playing, the 6-5 Cowboys play defense just as hard as any other team in the game, including the Chiefs, the Saints, the Rams, the Seahawks. Yes, Troy. We believe you.
I think the Dallas bias came out just a little bit there.
Just a little bit, yeah. So we're running late, man. This is
okay. So we're gonna move right along to our special discussion segment entitled "Overreactions" with a question mark.
Dan Graziano, our new favorite.
Yeah,
source.
Dan Graziano. Is he elite? Is he an elite ESPN staff writer? So this segment is a weekly. Dan Graziano writes a weekly article every week entitled Week XX Overreactions, where he talks about various things going on, whether they're an overreaction or not. So we're going to actually cover 2 weeks if we have time, starting with Week 12, which was last week. So this one, his first question or statement is, Lamar Jackson will save John Harbaugh's job. and Graziano's verdict is not an overreaction.
So I'm assuming we'll just do it like we do before. We'll just rotate.
Yeah, that's fine. So go ahead.
Okay. The Ravens are going to make the playoffs. It's just the math's working out. Like, it's just, they're going to be the 6th seed unless something crazy happens. But unless they win the Super Bowl or go to the Super Bowl, even then, I don't know. But unless they do that, it doesn't matter. Like, they've already announced this. It's going to be really weird going back on it, especially if they don't win the Super Bowl. Their quarterback situation's kind of in turmoil. Do they really trust Jackson to go far? So, like, he may make the exit nicer, I guess, or like make the fans happy that they went to the playoffs, but I don't think this is going to save his job, to be honest.
Yeah, it says here, Jackson has completed 27 of 44 passes for 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions in the 2 game.
Hey man, but he ran for like 150 yards.
And added 190 yards and a touchdown on 37 carries. I mean, first of all, why is your backup quarterback carrying the ball 37 times in 2 games? I mean, that's just asking for an injury. But secondly, that is not enough. I mean, yeah, they won, I think, both of those games, but I completely agree with you. They had already said they were going to let go John, so this isn't going to turn that around. Yeah, maybe barring a Super Bowl, but I even think if they win the Super Bowl, he's still gone.
Well, yeah, then I think it's just a great part. Like, I think they'll just end the relationship at a very high point, and then he'll get a job somewhere else easily, right? He'll be the Packers coach, which actually that might be a good spot for him because the situation. Actually, there you go. John Harbaugh to the Packers, because Flacco is the reason. I think we agreed before that Flacco is probably the biggest reason for the downs. So yeah, man, John Harbaugh to the Packers. You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah. Check in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So the next Eagles, one. Oh yeah, you're going to read the next one.
Yeah, the Eagles will win the NFC East, and at this point they were 5-6, and Graziano's verdict is overreaction.
So, taking into account that we have the knowledge which we have now, which is that the Eagles won tonight,
and the Cowboys won last week as well. So
right. So the Cowboys are 7-5. The Eagles are 6-6. He's basically going off of the fact that they had a comeback victory over the Giants, which was a pretty decent comeback. But I don't think so. The Eagles are just floundering and, kind of barely winning the games that they win. They beat a quarterbackless Redskins team tonight who was trotting Mark Sanchez out on the field. So
after Colt McCoy, you forgot this. Colt McCoy broke his leg, dude. How crazy is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's just
Redskins break their leg.
Yeah, it must be the 49ers. So I do agree that this is an overreaction. I think Dallas is the favorite to win. I think Dallas is getting hot at the right time, and I don't think the Eagles are strong enough to win the division this year. I just don't. So, okay, the next is the Chiefs will win the AFC. Graziano's verdict is not an overreaction.
So I'm going to use my authority here as co-hosts and say that there should be a third category, and that's just duh.
Well, this isn't just the AFC West, right? This is they're saying
I know.
Win the AFC. So like as in they win. Does this mean, or I guess I'd clarify, does this mean they win, because it's ambiguous from the text here, does this mean they get the first seed or that they win the conference championship game?
No, first seed.
Okay. Then in that case, yeah, it's pretty much a duh.
Yeah, so we'll just... Yeah, okay. The Colts need to stop throwing the ball to Andrew Luck. Not an overreaction. Actually, so I can't remember the play that happened before this. So I remember the play... Oh, that's right. I remember feeling like... I like Andrew Luck. I remember being a little happy that he got decked on the next play. So something happened, folks. I don't know why I keep saying folks. Something happened to where either the Colts or Andrew Luck did something that I disagreed with, and this was in the Dolphins game, that I didn't like. And the next play, they threw it to Luck. The throw was high. Luck catches it, and the cornerback just nailed him, okay? Just midair, just hit him hard. I was like, you know what? He deserved that. So I don't know what happened, but I remember feeling it was justified. Go ahead, Connor. So I stole your thunder there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't really have any thunder because honestly, I think it's just stupid when isn't this called the Wildcat?
Well, so
or there's a particular formation where the quarterback lines up as a wide receiver, right?
Yeah, so it is kind of like the Wildcat. It's the Wildcat's a little more specific than that, but yeah, that's a general form of the Wildcat. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that play call is maybe one of the dumbest things I've ever seen.
Yeah,
like, it's just, why would you ever intentionally put your quarterback in that kind of position? Especially since they're obviously disadvantaged as a receiver, right? Because they don't practice receiving, and they could easily get, like you said, decked by a corner and get injured.
Yeah, I mean, it's lucky. I mean, that's true. So
it's just dumb. Okay, so the next one is the Browns will win the AFC North in 2019. Graziano's verdict is overreaction.
So I have a fourth category, and that is, how did he even come up with this in the first place to qualify it as an overreaction or not? Like,
dude, he has one thing to do every week, and that's to write this article. So he had to come up with 5 things to make his word count.
I mean, it's like, Roger Goodell will still be a disliked commissioner. Overreaction or not? It's like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
How about just a reaction?
Yeah. This doesn't even. No, of course they won't. The Browns will not win the AFC North. So I'm yelling here, even though I'm agreeing with Graziano. I guess I'm still mad that he even brought this up in the first place. But yeah, duh. Of course they're not going to win the AFC North next year.
So are they 4-7-1 now?
Yes.
Because they lost yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're 4-7-1. Yeah, I mean,
they're not going to win 10 games, and 10 games will win the North next year. So knock it off. Let's move on.
Yeah. Okay.
Not to you. Knock it off,
Well,
Jeremy.
you knock it off too. So this last week, week 13, our next article, this one is NFL week 13 overreactions.
I guess I'll start.
You go ahead and start off with the first one.
Oh my gosh. Aaron Donald should be MVP of the league, not an overreaction.
Ronald McDonald? No. No. And no. So I don't think that Aaron Donald is playing absurdly good football right now, but his value as a player just does not extend past the top quarterback or couple quarterbacks and their performances. Like you just can't justify saying that he's the most valuable player over Patrick Mahomes or Drew Brees or Matt Ryan or any of those top 3 guys. Right? I mean,
yeah, and it gets worse. I can't stand the hypocrisy and the contradictions of ESPN. And to be honest, it's getting to me.
Okay, don't say it that serious.
I'm gonna need a good night's sleep tonight, because this is the same madness that happened a few years ago.
So wait, you're saying that when you point out other people's hypocrisy, you get a good night's sleep?
No, I'm saying I need a good night's sleep tonight because I'm getting upset.
Okay.
Well, talk about overreaction, man. So this is the same, similar as the madness that happened a few years ago when Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott were rookies, and they were both touting. People were saying that they're both in the top 5 for MVP, but also like the offensive line was really good. And this, by the way, this is the same year that Ryan and Rodgers had those ridiculous years, and Ryan won. ESPN, can you stop? Can you please stop contradicting yourself? You can't, with your definitions, which you go back and forth every day, it seems like, you can't say that Aaron Donald is an MVP candidate and then to also say that Todd Gurley is an MVP candidate, and then to also have Goff up there as well. You can't do that and stay consistent with your own definitions. So please, whether you're wrong or right, be consistent.
So
because you're both.
To be fair to ESPN, and no, I'm not getting paid by them to say this, I think some of those opinions may very well have come from different staff writers, because I know there's obviously varying opinions within the staff pool, right? So I don't know that the same guy that thinks that Aaron Donald should be MVP also wrote an article 3 weeks ago that said that Patrick Mahomes should be MVP, and then
he says it. Actually, look at the thing. He says it himself. He says Mahomes is the clear front runner with Breeze and Gurley and a handful of others nipping at his heels. So this is Graziano. So Graziano right here is contradicted.
Well, I mean, he says, I don't think he'll win it because Alan Page and Lawrence Taylor are the only two defensive players who ever have, and both were a very long time ago. Mahomes is the clear frontrunner with Drew Brees, Gurley, and a handful of other worthy offensive candidates nipping at his heels. Yeah, okay, so there's a little bit of disingenuity there. That's fine. All right, moving on to the next one. Both Texas teams, the Texans and the Cowboys, are legitimate Super Bowl contenders. The verdict, not an overreaction.
No.
Not this year.
No, not this year. But
Texans maybe next year.
Yeah, if they go after, because I know they're talking about, are they going to keep Marshall? They're going to get Fuller back. Are they going after Le'Veon Bell? So Texans are a maybe next year, and that's mostly due to the fact the Patriots are degrading and Brady may retire. The Cowboys,
just no.
Yeah, yeah, just no. So next one. Josh McDaniels will be the next coach of the Packers.
My only go ahead on the verdict.
Not an overreaction.
So my only comment on this is, what is ESPN's obsession with Josh McDaniels?
I know, dude. Wasn't it last week where they said he's gonna get an interview but not get hired?
Yeah.
And now they're saying he's
whatever. I don't. Yeah. I mean, we already said we want John Harbaugh, so we'll see if that happens.
Yeah, make up your
mind. Next one is Ron Rivera's seat in Carolina is awfully hot. All of a sudden, the verdict, overreaction.
So, caveat here. So I agree with him unless they lose both games to the Saints. Doesn't matter if they go 6-10 or 8-8. They lose all four, whatever. If they lose both games to the Saints in the rivalry that they've been keeping up with them now, I think his seat is very hot.
I think I agree with that. I think that the loss this week to the Bucs was pretty big. Like that, they kind of needed to win that to win a wild card spot, because now, now they absolutely have to win a game against the Chiefs or the Saints. They didn't before. It would have been nice to, but they didn't have to if they had beat the Bucs. But now they absolutely have to. And even if they do win one, they're not.
No, it's over for them because even if they go 9-7, which I doubt, but even if they go 9-7, the Seahawks are going at least 9-7, and they have the tiebreaker. So
but what about the second wild card spot? I mean, they could still beat out Minnesota.
Oh, that's right. That's true.
They could still beat out Minnesota
if they go 9-7, and that's going to be very tough. So that's why if they lose both Saints games, whether they end up,
what are the Vikings right now? Are they 5-5-1?
No, they're 6-5-1. And I think they're going to go 8-7-1.
Okay.
So
that means Carolina would have to win 3 more games
with 2 against
the Saints.
And I'm gonna look at the other ones really quick.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough.
So they have at Browns, Saints, Falcons, at Saints. So they're gonna lose, I think, 2 of those. And 8-8, it's not gonna do it.
Gosh, they got 3 division games.
Yeah, I know. And that at Browns game is not going to be a fun pick, to be honest with Pal.
No. Okay.
I think it's hot given that condition. Given both losing twice to the Saints will make the seat hot.
I agree with that assessment. And then you're up last for this last one.
What? The Giants should start Odell Beckham Jr. at quarterback. Overreaction. I didn't even know this was a
Well,
word.
I guess. So he says just the New York Giants star wide receiver threw his second long touchdown pass of the season Sunday, a 49-yarder to Russell Shepard to go with the 57-yarder he threw to Saquon Barkley in Week 5. Eli Manning's longest touchdown pass of the season is 33 yards, and his 15 touchdown passes this season have averaged 10.3 yards in length. Just saying. So
Go ahead. Yeah,
that's just a fun one.
Is it overreaction or not? I mean, it's kind of, to be honest.
Well, it's just dumb, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's meant to be funny. Okay, so that wraps up our overreactions ? Segment with our buddy Dan Graziano. So our final segment of the week is our game predictions. So after tonight's Eagles win, Joseph and I pick up another point. So I am now 120, 71, and 2 after being 10 and 6 this week at 63% accuracy. Joseph is 118, 73, and 2, so 2 games back from me. Your resident picks master. He was also 10 and 6 this week. We flipped on 1 game apiece, and he's at 62% accuracy. So who's going to take the title? Who's going to win the accuracy Super Bowl this year? Stay tuned to find out. We've only got a few weeks left. So our predictions. I'll also go ahead and start off. We got a full slate of 16 games next week. First game, Jaguars at Titans. I'm going Titans.
You gonna read off the next one, or
are you gonna?
Oh yeah,
say your pick.
I'm sorry.
Unless you just thought it was so obviously Titans that you know.
No, I didn't. I'll explain my brain freezer in a second. Titans.
Okay. You're next.
Oh, Falcons at Packers. So here's I've switched on this game 3 times. I'm going Falcons.
I'm going Falcons also, and I also switched on this game late, right before the show. So, anyway, I'll keep reading and then we'll alternate. So Jets at Bills. I'm actually going Jets on this one.
And this is least game of the week.
Yeah.
And I'm going Bills.
Okay. Next one is Panthers at Browns.
I switched on this game multiple times as well. I'm going Panthers.
Okay, I'm going Browns, and I also switched on this one. Colts at Texans. I'm going Texans.
Texans.
Ravens at Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Same. Patriots at Dolphins. I'm going Patriots.
It just has to happen. I'm doing it.
Okay, you're going Dolphins. So we disagree on that one. Saints at Bucks.
Bucks. I'm sorry, Saints. I'm in the mood of.
So I'm picking Saints too, but do not color me not shocked if the Bucks win.
Yeah. So just to clarify, I did say I did pick the Saints.
We both picked Saints. Giants at Redskins. This show's getting off the rail, folks. We're gonna be done soon. Giants at Redskins.
Another tough one. I'm going Giants.
I am too. Bengals at Chargers. I'm going Chargers.
Same.
Broncos at Niners.
This one was not easy, but I'm going Broncos.
Oh, come on. It was easy. I'm going Broncos, too. Eagles at Cowboys. I'm going Cowboys.
Same.
Lions at Cardinals.
So this is conditional on Matthew Stafford. I picked the Lions, but if he's out, I'll probably switch.
Okay, I'm going Cardinals. So I'll write that down as an official. You picking Lions, I'm picking Cardinals. Steelers at Raiders. I'm going Steelers.
Same.
Rams at Bears.
Rams, but I want to know if Trubisky is playing or not, because he didn't play this last week, so that'll affect. I might switch back if I see if Trubisky's healthy and playing.
Okay, I'm going Rams no matter what,
okay.
But this is one of those. This is one of the 3 or 4 this week that I feel like could somewhat easily flip. Vikings at Seahawks.
Seahawks.
Me too, unfortunately.
Especially how sloppy the Rams played against the Lions. That game, they may have won 30-16, but they gave it the Lions gave it away, and the Rams did not play well until the very end. It was sloppy.
Yeah.
Dude, we differed on 4, right?
So yeah, we differed on Jets at Bills, Patriots at Dolphins, Lions at Cardinals. So 3.
Okay, and I may still conditionally switch to the Cardinals depending on Matthew Stafford. And the Rams and Bears. I reserve that right for injuries.
Oh, you don't have that right. I wrote it on paper here. There is no right. There's no right. There is only wrong. Okay, so my game of the week, we might have to argue over this one because there honestly were 3 games that I felt like were decent enough to be called game of the week, but 2 of them involved teams we've called many times. So for that reason, I picked Ravens at Chiefs. But I will understand if you picked either Rams at Bears or Vikings at Seahawks.
So I wasn't thinking Vikings and Seahawks. I was thinking Rams and Bears, but I was actually like 52% leaning towards Ravens Chiefs.
Ah, okay. So let's do Ravens at Chiefs because we haven't done Ravens yet this season, and I think we've only done 1 or maybe 2 games with the Chiefs.
No, so you know what? I think we went over this a while ago. The Chiefs, Rams, Saints, and Vikings, we've given each 3 games, I think, this so far.
Okay. So do we want to go with Ravens at Chiefs?
No, I agree. I mean,
okay, we do want to do that though.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and go with Ravens Chiefs. So watch, if you're listening online, go ahead and watch Ravens at Chiefs with us this week. Send us your thoughts either at Twitter or on YouTube. Comments to this video. Yeah, let's go ahead and watch Ravens at Chiefs. This is an important game to see how the Chiefs are holding up after the Hunt release and also to see what kind of chops the Ravens have going into this playoff stretch. So that's a wrap for our episode this week. If you enjoyed tonight's episode or any of our past episodes, please like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube, as those are free ways for you to support our show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at The Practice Squad and at Neuralizer_. Just as a reminder, if you've missed past episodes, you can watch or listen to them right here on my YouTube channel. I typically upload on Tuesday evenings, the day after we go live. As always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, I want to thank our audience for surviving through this mess. I don't know how, but we made it on time. But thanks and have a good night.
Have a good night.